All right, I'm going to go ahead and start. Welcome. My name is Richard Capone. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Let's Go Learn. And today we're going to be covering the 4 steps to boost your SPED programs in 2025. 30 minutes today. Here's our agenda. Real quickly on who Let's Go Learn is, 7 minutes of slides, 18 minutes of demo, and then I'm going to be talking a little bit about our roadmap, some of the features we're integrating into our system, and then we'll have Q&A. So it'll be about 30 minutes of presentation, and then the Q&A will spill over the 30 minutes probably. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to go ahead and start. So first of all, who is Let's Go Learn? So I founded Let's Go Learn in 2000 with Dr. McCollum, and our goal back then was how can we create a diagnostic assessment system that answers the question why? Why is the student struggling? Why are they doing well? And it was really important for everything we did to always inform the teacher's instruction, right? Lots of assessment out there, but a lot of assessment is not geared towards telling you why someone's struggling. It's really geared more towards, whether someone is failing or doing well in the state test. We really wanted to keep it informative. Okay, so what is Let's Go Learn? Basically, in a nutshell, we're an online platform, and our platform basically does precision diagnostic assessment. So it's in reading and math, and that actually goes into our algorithm, which then says, okay, now with the data, how can teachers use it to write IEPs, set goals? How can I use it for small group instruction? But it's a very precise assessment that especially is helpful for special educators, right? Then based on that data, that same data also will drive personalized courses built in ELA and math, right? So I'm going to show this stuff to you, but I do need to sort of set the stage a little bit and talk about why this is really transformative for a special ed department. So how does Let's Go Learn support you? So first of all, just backing up a little bit, when you have a really powerful assessment, right? Precision data is necessary for answering why, how do I help a student in special education? How do I write my IEP, set my goals? But also, if you take that data and create summative reports, it can be used in general ed. So our assessment, while today we're talking about special education, it can be used across the district. It's a dual purpose assessment. General ed could use it. They're probably not going to be using the reports you use, but also MTSS, intervention as well, special education. So the same assessments can be used in many different ways. Okay. Okay, so this is how it's used, and this is how you can think about implementing it and supporting some of your own initiatives in your program. First of all, one of the things we talk about is we tell the special ed teacher, hey, you got 30 kids. Go ahead and figure out their present levels. But that's really a lot of work, right? So our diagnostic assessment starts off, our data will find the present levels for the students. It'll find 44 present levels across math, 7 in reading, and that provides your baseline data. It's also tied to numbers, right? So we have GLS scores, grade level equivalency scores. Then you use that data in our reports to write your IEPs, to write your short-term objectives, because we actually figure them out for you. And I'll show this to you in a second. So then you don't have to guess. A lot of times you'll see goals that are very loosey-goosey, I'll say, because they're saying Richard's 4th grade, he needs to work on his arithmetic. But we don't know exactly, without doing a lot of testing or quizzes, exactly where am I at in arithmetic, which is multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, right? Our assessment does that for you. So it takes that heavy burden of diagnostic assessment, of finding those present levels off of your teachers. Of course, you're still going to do some fine tuning, but it really gives them a base set of data. Now, from that, we have an automated SDI course that the teacher can give to the students, and it fills in those gaps automatically. It augments what they do or allows them to do flexible grouping if they're working with multiple kids. Then we also have built-in powerful progress monitoring. So one of the tough things now is if I do progress monitoring, how do I qualitatively have that data show growth or lack of growth? Anytime in our system you give a quiz, long vowel, multisyllabic syllables, 4th grade reading comprehension, 2-digit by 1-digit multiplication, any quiz automatically gives a score and it lays on top of your baseline data. So what that means is you have, in a sense, one-click progress monitoring. Okay, so this is the whole comprehensive system. And again, I'm going to show this to you. And then, of course, we have very good professional development. So if you're a SPED director, don't worry. First training is how do I assess the student? Second training is how do I use the data to write an IEP? Maybe the next training is how do I set goals? So it's all bite-sized and it's operationalized for you to work it into your training process. Okay, what's the secret sauce? So sometimes you may be saying, well, this is too good to be true. Let me explain the reason why it works. Okay. Our assessments, which are Dora in reading and Adam in mathematics, are based on a diagnostic model of assessment. A lot of assessments are very benchmark based. So you give the student assessment based on their grade level, and they're maybe doing fourth grade items. Maybe it goes down, but the problem is it doesn't find those ceiling points, which is your present level. So our assessment says, okay, diagnostic model in math, what is it? There's 44 scope and sequences that make up foundational math. And we find where the student is at in this vertically aligned scope and sequence of skill. So this is, let's say this is a student, we would find, okay, this is their present level there. We test up and down, and we find where they're at in addition, where they're at in subtraction. That is the key of a diagnostic model. True diagnostic models find present levels, and then right above that present level is your instructional point. Hopefully that makes sense, right? Now, that's also why it allows us to do this quizzes and have the quizzes fall on top of the baseline data, because you can't do that when you're doing a benchmark testing model, okay? So let me take a look at place value to sort of explain this to you. So if you look at place value and you say the student ended up right here, which is upper fourth grade, what exactly does that mean? If you look at the scope and sequence of place value, it starts off in 1 in 10s, 1 10s, hundredths, then it goes thousands, expanded form, thousands, 10,000s, hundreds, millions, and then decimal place value. So this is sort of how you would teach it. This student's present level is right there, and what I need to work on next are these two skills. So if this student was a sixth grader, I need to teach them this upper fourth grade skill and this upper fifth grade skill, and they would have mastered place value, all right? So hopefully that makes sense. I'll show this to you in the system in a second. Okay, reading. Very similar. We have multiple subtests, which is automaticity of word recognition, high frequency words, phonics, word recognition, spelling, vocabulary, and comprehension. Again, not making any assumptions. What can the student do? What can they not do? And so on and so forth. Okay, so the other piece I just want to mention our instruction. So yeah, we're assessment, and that's the core sort of secret sauce. But also, how do you create tools and lessons to optimize learning for the student? So we break it down to cognitive load, which meaning giving them something that's not too hard, too easy, engagement and motivation. So this is what we follow in our lessons. So right now, initially when a student gets an edge lesson, a course in ELA or math, we use a unique learning path, right? Because our assessment drives it, which reduces your cognitive load. The lessons are culturally relevant, right? We don't just have Sal Khan, not that I don't like Sal Khan, but Sal Khan talking to you about a whiteboard. You want to have different graphics, different themes that sort of relate different students and pulls them in so they get excited about it. We have music in our lessons. So 75% of our lessons have an actual song. And we know how it is. You know, when you have a song, it helps you memorize things a lot easier. Anyway, all these different pieces, and of course, gamification. That makes it, it motivates students to get a higher score. So all of these things, when you look at these 6 different factors, this is what makes our lessons so effective, right? Because we really are able to rapidly fill gaps for students. Now, this is a supplement to the teacher. You have an automatic course that fills in the gaps, but the teacher can also assign any lesson they want as well. Okay, so let me go ahead and jump into the demo. So I'm logged in right now. Okay, so here's my class. So I'm assuming that the student's been assessed, right? And this is live data. These are real students with IEPs, but all the names have been changed, right? So that's why it's really interesting to look at this. So assume they're done. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at my ELA, my reading scores first. So right here, we see high frequency words, word recognition, phonics, phonemic awareness, spelling, vocabulary, comprehension. You roll your mouse over, you can see what it is. And these are scores. These are grade level equivalency. So green is the maximum score. So Claudia has maxed out in sight words, maxed out in word rec, maxed out in phonics. So 7th grade. So really, this student's a great, solid reader. This student here, Joan, is maxed out on those, but we need to work on comprehension. So I can start seeing my class in the form of data, right? It is really powerful to have this. And that's why this is actually powerful for not just special ed, but general ed. Now let's take a look at this one student here, Kevin. Kevin has max out on sight words, but phonics is very low, right? So let me take a look at Kevin's detailed report here. So now if I look at how Kevin reads words, right, we see this right here, strong sight words, but needs to work on phonics and word recognition and accommodation, right? So we start describing what needs to happen. We give you miscue analysis. 30%, 7% of the errors were real words, 33 were non-words. So it's interesting how Kevin understands words. We really put it all together. We have a narrative section right here as well that talks about this particular profile. Within phonics, we see, okay, we have beginning sounds, but we need to work on short vowel next and consonant blends and long vowel. So it's really spelled out. This is your hard data, right? So this is a fantastic report to share with whether a parent wants to help their child or a tutor. So it's really a powerful report. But now let me show you a little bit more. Let's say I also want to do flexible grouping. It could be an inclusion classroom, or maybe it is a breakout. Maybe you're doing small groups. So I'm going to choose phonics and look at my entire group in the scope and sequence of phonics. So now we see here's the phonics. The bottom students have all mastered phonics, right? Remember, Claudia was in there. She mastered it. These students are working on beginning consonants, so beginning sounds. These students on beginning sounds as well, short vowel, consonant blends, long vowel. So this is a really powerful tool. If I wanted to, I could click here, and then I actually could assign a long vowel lesson to those students. Or I may pull those students into a small group, work with them, and then when I'm ready, I can queue up a quiz right here. Just click this button, and now a long vowel quiz has been queued up for those students, right? So it's really, really powerful. Let me go back over here. So the data is very granular, right? Now we have another, let me jump over to mathematics, and then I'm going to show you some more stuff here. So if I come over to mathematics, this is actually, I think it's really, really powerful as well for special education. Most assessments in mathematics just look at strand scores, total score, numbers and operations strand, measurement, data, geometry, algebra. But we break it down, right? Because if I told you, here's a seventh grader and they're operating about the mid fifth grade numeracy, you don't know what to do, right? And that's what a lot of assessments do. I don't know exactly what that means. So now I have to do a bunch of testing to figure out how do I work with Claudia. But what we can do is we click on numbers and operations and we see these are the present levels. So Claudia actually has maxed out these screen scores in place value, ordering, addition of whole number, subtraction of whole number. Where she's low is multiplication, a little bit low in fractions, and then decimal operations. So I see these two are areas I need to focus on, right? The score corresponds to a specific skill. If I look at her detailed report for Claudia, and now I scroll down, multiplication of whole numbers, she just needs to learn the identify the commutative, associative, distributive properties. Within fractions, she needs to work on multiplying fractions. So that's the next skill she needs to work at. Her present level is she's able to subtract fractions, but she's not able to multiply. So I see this right there. This is exactly what I need to work on, right? And this red double arrow tells me she's below grade level. So this is, imagine giving an assessment and your teachers have all this data, how much time it saves. Our customers tell us that our system saves about 50% of their time writing IEPs and writing goals, right? So let me show you the special education report. Now, by the way, I'm going really fast. So I meant to go fast. I just want to show you the capacity here. So I just chose the IEP report for Claudia. We know that we want to focus on numbers and operations because that's obviously very, very important. So what is her present levels? Claudia can correctly round to the nearest tens, hundreds, and thousands. Great. She maxed out. She can identify decimal place values. Great. She maxed out on that score. So these are her present levels. So if I want to copy some of these, I can. I could put that into my report, write that out. Now, though, if I want to go ahead and say, well, let's set some goals. And of course, we're going to train your teachers on how to do this. But now I say, okay, remember I said multiplication, fractions, and decimal operations are probably the two that I really want to focus on, or actually percentages as well, looking at this. So I'm going to focus on these low GLS scores. So if I teach Claudia to multiply fractions, that's a 5.6. And then also multiplying and dividing fractions, that's a 5.8. So now I start to see these are the goals. I would probably choose these three goals here and maybe some percentages as well, these three goals. Maybe those are the six next skills and concepts I would work on, right? So it's right there for you. That's what's really powerful. I can copy those, put them into my IEP documentation, and so on and so forth. Also, what's sort of neat is in fractions, we see that she's in seventh grade, so we want to get to 7 and 2C, but right now, instructionally, she's at that level. So we do a little bit of the lifting for you to figure out standards, where you're at and where you need to get to, because it's a pain to have to look that kind of stuff up for reports. Hopefully that makes sense, right? It's really easy to do this, and this is, very, very expansive. We got some student profile if you want to put this in your PLAF as well, talking about, per atom, Claudia has the following results and grade level scores, measurement 4.2, data analysis 4.6. So this is some stuff you may want to put into your PLAF statement. I'm also talking about which strands she's low in and high in and so on and so forth. Okay. Now I know I'm going really fast, so let me show you a little bit more. So I'm going to go back to the progress monitoring because some of the four steps I want to talk about is precision diagnostics to find present levels, to be able to write goals. But really, I want to stress progress monitoring. We get a lot of schools who say, we're not doing a good job of progress monitoring. And I showed you how you can queue up those quizzes, but I'm going to show you how the data looks. And if I look at Benjamin here, I'm going to click on the graph. Benjamin has taken multiple tests over the years. Now, if we look at this, and I'm sorry, I know this is really complicated, but remember, these are sort of the reading scores. So we see over here when he was in seventh grade, these are some scores. High frequency words, 3. Phonics was 1.17. Comprehension was 4. The teacher then decided later on to give some more quizzes. So they gave a spelling test, a word recognition subtest. And notice how these scores just sort of lay on, here's a phonics subtest. These scores lay on top because on 510, they gave a phonics test. On 510, also a word recognition subtest. And then these scores lay on top of your baseline scores, and we see the snapshot updated, right? So every time the teacher is giving either a full assessment or a quiz, the data just adds on top. And now this is my progress monitoring. So if I wanted to actually graph this, I'd say, okay, well, let me go ahead and graph some of these quizzes, these tests over time. And if you needed to have a meeting um, and show results, this is it. Now look at this. This is interesting. At a certain point in time, reading really just took off for this student, and suddenly we see the scores shooting up, right? Vocabulary and comprehension just shot up. I think this is phonics is still low, but this is an area to work on. So this is amazing for teachers, right? They don't have to think about, oh, I gave a quiz and how does that reflect back and how do I show quantitatively and quantitatively what the growth is. We do it automatically for you. So whether math, I think we have 300 quizzes, and reading, we have like 150. All those quizzes tie into a scoring metric. So the teacher just queues them up and then they're ready to go, right? Let's see here. Okay, let me show you one more thing. I'm going to show you Edge. Now, Edge, what's interesting about this is, remember I told you that as soon as they take an assessment, it creates a course for each student. If I want to see upcoming lessons for Benjamin, now this is a demo server, so it's sort of hard to show this, but oh, actually the student has actually maxed out. So let me choose some facility lower here. Okay, so now we see for Claudia, some of the next lessons queued up. Here's 4 fourth grade lessons, angles and lines comparing fractions, symmetry, fifth grade lessons, sixth grade lessons. So what's interesting about this is in about 20 lessons, I am filling all the fourth, fifth, and sixth grade gaps in the students. This is why we can accelerate students' outcomes so fast, because we're able to identify the gaps that are below grade level and fill them in. A lot of systems, when you just try to place students on strand scores, you give them a lot of extra lessons they don't need, right? Look at this. Surgically, we figured out angles, lines, fractions, symmetry. So this is geometry and numbers and operations. We're figuring out those 4 concepts that the student is missed in fourth grade, and they're getting filled first. That is very powerful, right? Yeah, so anyway, so that's another huge part of our system. So of course, lots of reporting as well. All this data can be rolled up at the district level, however you want. But let me show you something else that's sort of exciting. Let me go back to my slides. Okay. Okay. I just want to mention, again, of course, we have great professional development. I showed you so much stuff there, but we're going to break it out. We're going to show you exactly the teachers exactly how to implement these things in pieces. We have trainings for principals. We have trainings for also we have everything recorded, so you can have it asynchronously, just record it and watch it, or we can do live webinars or in person. Extensive reporting options for the teacher, whether you're a general ed teacher who just needs a summary report or you're a special education teacher who needs a narrative report to write your present levels and goals, or your administrator who needs different reports. We have it all. Okay. I want to talk real quickly about the roadmap of what else is coming out here, because I know some of you, it looks like some of you are customers, but we do have a behavior core assessment coming out and an incident reporting. So another big piece is behavior, right? The other side of the triangle. We do academics, but we want to be able to do this. We have other webinars coming up that will talk about that. The other thing is AI. AI is huge, right? So I wanted to show you something, and I don't know if some of you noticed it, but when you're in a system here and you take a report, you can come over here and export a report. So I'm going to export a detailed report. I could run this report as a de-identified, and I could download it as a PDF. Okay, so I could do that. Now, what I could do with that report, and actually, you know what? I'll do this live. Okay, I just grabbed that report right there. Now I'm going to go, we have a GPT. Uh, let's go ahead and just refresh this. You can look this up. It's called the LGL Report Expert. It's on ChatGPT. I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, I want to have this pre-canned question up there. So within numbers and operations strand, what are the priority subtests I should focus on and the lowest 10 skills I should target? Okay, and I gave you some other instructions right there. So I just did this. I'm going to drag this report right here and say, please do this for this student. Okay. Now this ChatGPT is reading the report and it's going to tell me the 10 next skills I should work on for this student. Now you could do this too, right? And we train you to do this, but this is just grab it automatically. And here it is saying exactly what Benjamin should work on, right? And these are skills, some place value, 110 thousands. Then we have some fractions, comparing and ordering. Now I could say, okay, now write these as my school's SMART goals in the format of Benjamin will demonstrate mastery at the 80% level. Okay. So anyway, I can put whatever language you need, right? So I'm putting it in there, and now it's turned into a SMART goal format. So one of our first features we're going to try to roll out is connecting AI, doing what I'm just doing here, but within the Let's Go Learn interface and allowing you to store a bank of SMART goals. So you could say, hey, here's 10 SMART goals. This is how we write our goals in math. Here's 10 in ELA. And so this is what we're trying to do as well. It's an easy lift for us. People don't realize, but when you combine, AI is not the cure-all, right? But if you combine good data with AI and your supervision, there's a lot you can do. So we're real excited about some of this stuff because it's going to be an easy lift for us to do it, and we're already starting to dabble in it. And hopefully it's going to be coming out soon. All right, so let me go ahead and do this again. All right, so let me go ahead and ask some questions. I think we're almost out of time. So let's see. So first question, what training or PD does LGL provide to help teachers get up to speed on using the system? Okay, great. So we're going to work that out, customize it for you. Initially, when you first work with us, the first thing is probably going to be how do I assess the students, right? So we show you how to queue up students, how you assess them. And then the next one would be how do I read reports? So going over the basic summary report, which is great to share with parents, the detail report, and then also showing you how to start looking at the IEP tool report, which you would use to write your IEPs. Now, we may also have a separate session. We're going to break it up into 1 hour chunks. Usually, we may have something, how do I write goals? Sort of what I just showed you. And then later on, we may have stuff where how do I do progress monitoring, right? Yes, you can. One of the questions is, can I get a trial version? Absolutely. You could use that code right there. You could also email me, say, hey, I want a trial, and we'll set you up with a trial. That's fine. What grade level does it cap? So Adam does K to 7/8, and then we also have algebra, um, and so and pre-algebra as well. So really, the goal here is if students can have their foundational math skills and they fill all the gaps of foundational math, then they can take any math course, whether it's integrated math 2, 3, a trig. So the idea is the diagnostic is needed for foundational math. So that's the grade levels we do. All right. So K8 and also 9, which is algebra, right? Okay. Um, Here's another question. Our district uses iReady, but that's for general education. Can Let's Go Learn support growth measure and predictive reports as iReady does for our entire district? Yes, yes, for sure. So I think I've mentioned that, but you can still give our assessment to the entire district. We actually have a lot of accounts who use us for everyone. The difference is you wouldn't be running those IEP tools, IEP report. You probably would be running some performance band reports, state predictive reports, which shows students like how many are going to be proficient on their state test. So we have all that. So absolutely. Okay. If you have any questions, go ahead and put that into the Q&A. I want to be able to answer those. All right, here's another one. You mentioned Dora and Adam are vertically aligned. I guess I said that. What does that mean? How's that compare to a scaled score? Okay, that's a good question. And this is getting technical. We have grade level scores. So let me just go back over here. So when you look at the scores here, we have a total score here, right? This is vertically aligned, meaning if when they take our assessment in fourth grade or they take it in eighth grade, it's a single scale, right? So we don't actually have to do scaling. When you use a system that gives you a RIT score, like 478 or whatever, every time they have a different test for every grade student. So they have to scale it. So that's all. We don't have to scale it because we operate on a universal scope and sequence. Everything is how do I teach place value? Well, this starts in the first grade and this goes up to fifth grade. So because our assessment's based on scope and sequences and scores, we're automatically scaled. There's no predictive measurement that has to happen. So as a result of that, we technically are probably more accurate at measuring growth because definitively, if Penny and Riker pass decimal place values, that's what they're supposed to learn next, and they get that passed, I now bump place value score up. That adjusts your numbers and operations, and then that adjusts your total score. So I definitively have measured growth, right? So we have connected skills and concept quizzes and formative testing to growth. Other assessments can't do it because they just give you a cross section of tests and say, oh, you're in fifth grade or sixth grade. I'm going to give you 100 random questions within that grade level and mathematically predict it. Okay, I'm sorry, that was a big mouthful. I'm sorry about that. So let me see if there's any other questions. Oh yeah, another one popped up. Progress monitoring for math is reading oral. So right now there's two questions here. Progress monitoring for math, and I think I just sort of explained that. We do that. So if I wanted to queue that up, I could test anybody in any single one of these little skills. So that's how progress monitoring for math works. You can go to a certain student individually. So I can go over here and say for Joan, I could queue up any quiz. So I could say decimal place right there, decimal place value. I could queue that up. And that automatically lays on top of your baseline data. The great thing, though, is the baseline assessment tells you where you need to work and where you need to quiz. If you just have a bank of quizzes, the teachers don't know where to begin, right? So you need an assessment to get you in the ballpark. The other question is oral reading fluency. Right now, our oral reading fluency is a teacher-administered test. So we're not necessarily doing that. So that's something you would still do if you want to do a fluency test. Because when you look at Dora, which I showed you right here, we're not doing oral read fluency. We have as a separate paper and pencil test. So high frequency words, word rec, phonics, phonemic awareness, spelling, vocabulary comprehension. All right. Great question. All right. Any other questions? Go ahead and put them in there. All right. Here's another question just popped up. You mentioned teacher assigned lessons. How does that work? Okay. So the way it works is if I come over here to phonics and let's say I take a look at my class, and also I just may know, maybe I know the student. I always like doing long vowel because it's an easy one. Okay, these students here, these students need to work on long vowel. I can go ahead and select that. And then I know that's where they definitely need to work. I can come over here. They're in a teacher assignment. So I can say, okay, next. And then I'm going to go ahead, select ELA lessons, and I'm going to say long, long vowel right here. And now I go next. And then I could say, please do during independent work time. Oops. And I can give it a date of when it starts. So when the assignment shows up and when they have to finish it by, apply. And then I say, please do carefully. All right. And then I basically save it. Now I just assign those lessons. You could also do it as a great way to scaffold, right? If you know you're working on Pythagorean theorem, maybe I want to queue up a right triangle, right angle lesson so I make sure everyone knows it. And the lessons take 10 to 15 minutes. They're fun. They have music in it as well, right? All right, another question came in via email that I thought was good to include. And it says, how does this work or compare to Goalbook? Now that's an interesting question. A lot of our customers use Goalbook as well as our system. So Goalbook helps teachers write those SMART goals. It has a library of goals that sound really good. But one of the biggest complaints we hear is that sometimes the goals are so good, but they could be disconnected from what the student actually needs. And that's because Goalbook does not do an assessment. They may have quizzes, but the teacher is expected to know the present level of the student. So we come in first. Our assessments in an hour, hour and a half, or 30 minutes, whatever it is, you test the students in reading and math. You have all your present levels. Then you use that data. You can use Goalbook to write those goals if that's part of your workflow, right? And then, of course, as you give quizzes in our system, it updates their present levels, and you can revise your goals if you need to. So hopefully that answers that question. Thank you. So I threw a lot out there for you, and I apologize. Again, this is recorded. Let me just bring this back up. So I think we are out of time. Wow, that was record time. I went really fast. I apologize if I talked too quickly. Reach out, send me an email if you want, or you can always scan that QR code, but we're happy to help. I think it's always important to leverage the latest technologies. I know a lot of special ed departments sometimes get overlooked because a technology assessment, a lot of times they assume you're going to use what the entire district is using and they force you to use that. But, obviously in a case like ours, a precision diagnostic can go a long way to help teachers really save them time. Okay, no more questions. Thank you so much. And you will get the recording in the next day or two, next business day or two. All right. Thank you so much and have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.